I'm going to give you some cool writing tips to help you become a better creative writer. And then I have a secret technique today that's going to help you deal with any creative ever. And then I'm going to do my 2024 writing challenge where I write for 30 minutes a day every day for 1 year. And lastly, if you stick around till the end of this live stream, I have a brand new live writing game. If you want to stay in and come participate, it'll be fun. And that will be based off the question of the day. Let me cue the question of the day. Our question of the day: you just found the cure to eternal life. What do you do with it? If you're in the live stream right now, I want you to think about that. You just found the cure for eternal life. What would you do with it? Think about it, and we'll come back to it at the when we hop into the game. Welcome to Kauffman Writes. I'm Kauffman, and this is my daily creative writing live stream. I created this for two reasons. One, because I want to write for 30 minutes a day, beat procrastination, as I'm sure you well understand. And two, consistency and accountability. I'm trying to improve. I've seen other writers throughout the years struggle with the same thing. So join me on this journey and let's write. Okay, and let's hop right into our first segment. Your creative writing questions answered. Question number 1. How do you motivate yourself to write when life is crazy? First, I want you to go find a friend. I want you to go find a friend or find a family member. They also need to be just as passionate about writing as you are. It could be an acquaintance. It could be just somebody. Let's say that you don't know any people in your life who like to write at all. Then I want you to go onto Facebook, go under creative writing groups, and then search for one and join one, and then type, I need a friend who loves to write as well. Well, maybe not in those words. You can come up with something better. We're creative writers here. And essentially, you're going to make a pact. When, regardless of what you guys are doing in your life, you guys are always going to check in on each other and help each other with just writing and just keeping each other inspired. This is the accountability partner. I promise you, if you're in a tough part in your life and you're not expecting your friend, accountability partner to reach out and tell you some like random writing thing, it will motivate the heck out of you to want to get back into your writing, because when they're dealing with it and they're in the thick of life, you'll do the same thing for them. Great strategy. Question number 2. What is it like to be a creative writer? Rewarding. It's very rewarding. I love creative writing because I love the story. I love the journey. I love the development of world building and character development. And I love putting these stories together. When you're in the middle of creating a story and the characters are coming to life and the structure is coming to life and the story itself is just this whole, it's a cohesive whole. It's the coolest thing ever. And it is so rewarding because then when you finish the story, it's like that's what you put together. That was like your creation. At the same time, it can also be a lonely path because as a writer, you're writing and rewriting. I'm sure you've heard that quote before. Writing is rewriting. You're going to be spending a lot of time by yourself. You're going to be spending a lot of time in front of a computer or with your notepad or with some sort of writing thing and writing, because most of it is a solo journey. Now, when you go through editing and collaborating, of course, there's a lot of different aspects to it. But at heart, you're going to be working by yourself a lot. So if you're the type of person who you need people in your life like all the time and you love the social game, writing, it might just be challenging for you unless you pursue a different type of writing style. All right. And I put one other note here, patience. Because you're going to be going through 2, 3, 4 drafts. And if It's time consuming. It's very, very time consuming. There's a reason that so many writers out there struggle with procrastination and accountability. As I myself have struggled, I get it. The struggle is real, but it's because it takes a lot of patience to write 300 pages or not 100 pages, 300 words on a page and write pages upon pages upon pages. And that's just for a novel or short story, assuming that it's not a script or a poem or any other types of creative writing. But you need a lot of patience to get to the end, but it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. It's always something that's motivated me, and it's the thing that I love to do. Hence why I want to meet every creative writer possible. Question number 3. What is a trick to beat procrastination? All right, I have a cool little method, cool little cheat here for you. So I want you to go on your phone right now. If you have been procrastinating from writing, I want you to pull out your phone. If I wasn't using it as a camera, I would pull it out too. And then you're going to go onto your notifications, the whatever app you have for notifications, and you're going to start a new notification. You're going to name it right now. You can then put the date and the time whenever you want. Put it at a random time. Do it a random time next week. And then set that. And now go to your timer and set a 30-minute timer. Now, you're probably going to forget about it. But when it goes off at whatever time you set it for, start writing. Hold yourself accountable to start writing and try something new. Like, literally, what's it going to hurt? And if you sit down, or let's say you're not in a place to write, pull up your phone. Anyone can write on your phone. I guarantee you most likely have a phone on you. Trust me. Once you get this the goal is to just get yourself started. Once you get yourself started, then you could try a new routine. And you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe 15 minutes a day. The goal is make it as easy as possible. And trust me, you will appreciate it. All right. If you have any creative writing questions that you want answered, feel free to drop them in the comments below, and I'd be happy to answer them. I always love helping other writers out there. Additionally, if you found any value from any of the questions that we've gone over so far, don't forget to like and or subscribe this video, so that way you'll be notified when I come out with my live streams, when I put out writing videos, and generally if you want to beat procrastination, or maybe if you don't, who's to say? All right, and let's go on to our segment, the technique of the day. Critiquing the creative. So I'm going to pull up my screen over here. And so this is a cool technique that I have. Whenever you're working, workshopping, or whenever somebody asks you to read their work, and maybe you don't know how to go about it, or maybe you have before, or maybe you've received feedback and it hasn't it sucked for you. Regardless of the situation, strategy will help you deal with any creative feedback for anyone. All right. So I named it in very fun little steps here. So it's a 7-step strategy, starting with step number 1, tone down the tone. Essentially, tone is everything. You could be going in with the best of intentions, being like, this is an amazing piece, best thing I've ever read. But if your tone is horrible and you're just like pissed off at the world, they're going to pick up on it. I promise you. And I know this is an easy one, but the number of times I've heard feedback either given to other writers or received, like, start with your tone. If you're intentional with it, it'll make a big difference. All right. Setting your tone. Easy peasy. All right. Step number 2, expect the unexpected. So for this one, what you want to do is you want to clarify what their expectations are. So whoever's piece you're reading, you want to ask them, what do they expect of you when it comes down to how you're going to be giving them feedback? Are they expecting you to do a deep dive into structure, character building, world development, grammar, dialogue, and so on and so forth? Or are they just like, you know what? I just want to know what the vibe is like. I just want to know what it feels like. I just want to know if you enjoy it and if it was a fun read. Two completely different asks. And if you go into it with the wrong expectations, then when you deliver feedback on the back end, it's going to create mixed messaging because they're not receiving what the value that you're trying to give. It helps get on the same page. So ask what their expectations are. Okay. Step number 3, reading who? For this step, this is a very easy one. You want to ask them who's their target audience. The reason this is important is because if you are not their target audience, reader, whoever, it's going to make it so much more difficult for you to really relate and not comprehend, but just for you to be able to relate with the material. If they're asking you to read a comedy, but you hate comedy pieces and you're like a horror buff, like, yes, you can still give great feedback, but it's important to recognize that the feedback or that the story is not intended for you. So ask who their intended audience is for or reader. If I can spell reader correctly. All right, step number 4. Feelings matter. Or do they? Absolutely, feelings matter, 100%. The the reason that feelings matter, you wanna ask them, how do they feel about their writing? The type of feedback that you're going to be giving them is going to be completely different than someone who's like, "You know what? This is amazing. Best thing I've ever written. This is my masterpiece," as compared to, "Worst thing I've ever written. It's garbage, a dumpster fire. I don't know what's going on with my life." You're going to be giving 2 different types of feedback based off how they feel about it. Because if you read it and you hear and you see what their sentiment expressed, then you know that they're on the same page and they actually recognize where their problems are at. But what happens sometimes is that when you read through something, because we get so attached to our work, and I'm going to pull myself up real fast because we get so attached to our work and we fall in love with it. When we receive feedback that is unexpected because we feel we're at a certain level, that creates this weird, convoluted, upset feeling, which I have seen so many times before. I've been involved and I've seen more than 100 workshops in my time, whether that was with school, with writers groups, and just working with writers. So I promise you, you'll make your life so much easier if you ask about their feelings and the way they feel about it. All right. So ask about how they feel about their piece. And step number 5. Step number 5, begin the first strike. So this is the time for you to start giving the feedback and giving the advice. Now, what's important with this step, begin the first strike, you now want to keep in mind the first 4 steps. Step 1, where you asked about the tone, or not where you asked, but where you set your own tone. Step 2, where you asked what their expectations are. Step 3, where you asked who their intended audience is. Step 4, where you asked how they felt about the piece, because all those are important factors when you give the feedback. And if you're keeping these things in mind, then I promise you, you could be giving them the worst feedback in the world. You could be giving them the best feedback in the world. And they're going to be able to more handle it and then talk with you to help improve their piece because you're coming from it from a self-aware perspective. And if you have any questions about this technique, definitely feel free to post them down below. This was something I developed a while back and I've seen a lot of success with it. Step number 6, tailor, rinse, and repeat. Essentially, just repeating what you did. This is once you've gone through the first strike, usually I'll do it like section by section. Then you can go back for, let's say you have to touch on world building, character development, dialogue. use the same strategy for each section. Sometimes some people want like more of a deep dive, or maybe you've been paid to do something, or maybe you're trading work with somebody. But if you take the time for each section that you're going to give advice or feedback on, you're going to make your life so much easier. Trust. All right. And then step 7, the real secret. And the real secret behind this, I'll let you read it. The real secret is, I know, trust me, been there time and time again. Step 7 was a little bit of fun. So step 7, ask them to read your work, because we both know that you really want your work read so you can put it out there. Trust me, the number of writers who want their work read, I totally get it. I finish something, I'm super passionate about it. I'm like, all right, everyone read it. I need it to be better. But then maybe I don't want to hear the bad feedback depending on where I'm at in my life, right? So then if I'm setting myself up with realistic expectations, it'll be great. And then if I've used my critiquing the creative technique, you're going to be set up for success. All right. So that's the technique of the day. If you found value from that, post a question, like, subscribe, come join me on this creative writing daily live adventure. Awesome. All right. So we're going to hop into the segment, the 2024 writing challenge. Now, if you're in the writing mindset, night owls, feel free to grab a pen, join me, and let's write together. But totally no pressure. If you want to just do what you do and watch me narrate my short story, or actually my novel, The Last Scarecrow, how about it? I will provide narration so that way it will give you ideas. So the next time you're writing, it'll help improve your skill set. So you can see how the mindset of a writer. And by the way, let me throw up the question of the day. I have a cool banner. So we're going to touch on the question of the day, which will be our live game, which we will do after the writing segment. So stick around till after, and we'll have a fun creative writing game. New live games every single day. I can create creative writing games for days. But the question is, you just found the cure to eternal life. What do you do? All right. It looks like I was maybe kicked out of Instagram. Well, it's all right. We'll survive this evening. Okay. So I'm going to drop that, and we're going to change over to the 2024 writing challenge. So I have to write 30 minutes a day for 1 year. I have my setup. I have my story, The Last Scarecrow. And then I believe I set up, perfect, the novel and the synopsis along with my timer. So if you haven't been joining me so far, the Last Scarecrow started as this cute free write, 2 to 3 pages. That's all that it was meant to be. I've been doing this 30-minute writing challenge, kind of putting more time into it. And I hit about the 30% mark when I was like, I have this like full story fleshed out. I created the outline, which I'm realizing I actually forgot to pull up my outline. But I created the outline, and now I am at, let's see, Last Scarecrow outline. Cool. And now after, perfect. And that's more so I can know what I'm doing with my life. All right. But essentially, now it's becoming a feature-length novel about, I think we're almost at 60. Yeah, we're 54. We're really getting there. Probably be like a 150-page story. I love it. All right, and here's the synopsis. Novel, The Last Scarecrow. The Last Scarecrow, a post-apocalyptic fairy tale about a scarecrow come to life, who journeys across a land ridden with animals, creatures, and beasts who are fading away into the nothingness at the hands of the first demon. All right, and the timer starts now. Now, something that I always have to do when I get back into my writing, I always like to go through what I had previously, so that way I can get myself back into the writing mindset. All right, let's see where what. Okay, right. So with where he's at, he's basically so we have the last scarecrow. He's been traveling this land, and now he's basically learning about the history of the world. So we're at about probably 35% of the way through the story. He was chasing after his friend, Mr. Crow, disappeared, chased through the city. All these weird things happened to him. He finally reached a tower. His friend, Mr. Crow, was fine. And he encountered this creature called the Last Robot, who is on his dying breath. The scarecrow reached out for him, and suddenly the world disappeared. And now we're get to see maybe a flashback. I think it's really more ability of what happened to this post-apocalyptic world and why humanity is gone. All right. So let's see, we're at the beginning of this. Welcome. Welcome to the age of humanity, Scarecrow. The last robot stated as he walked up beside him from atop that pile of dirt. The last Scarecrow jumped, not having realized he had company. Not only was New City different, and I'm realizing I forgot to throw in some music. You need good writing music, by the way. You're right. Cool writing music. All right. And the last scarecrow jumped, not having realized he had company. Not only was New City different, but the last robot was as well. His body was no longer colored by the shades of reds, oranges, and yellows, but instead, there were various shades of gray and black. The lights, dials, and buttons portrayed a steady display of lighting that never went out. His entire body shined and glistened, giving off a new sensation. When the last scarecrow had encountered him in the last chapter, he was basically rusted to hell. And basically, he's been around for a long time, needless to say, waiting. The last scarecrow tried to make sense of this reality as he asked, "How are you?" The last robot cut him off. "This is my form before the decades eroded my exterior. This is the past during the age of humans." A group of creators rode one of their strange beasts directly through the last robot. The last scarecrow looked around, confused. Yes, they were both transparent. All right, so I'm going to get right into it, actually. I just needed to make sure when I had the last robot show already. Dog needs to go out. I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll include some type of game, some type of a game that they're playing, but I'll think about it. I'll probably come back there on the rewrite. What type of games do they play in this age? And now for the action. Mm. So like I'm asking myself as I'm setting up these characters, because essentially this is backstory and it'll probably come into play a little later. I'm asking myself, how do I introduce characters for a flashback type backstory in a way that's going to be effective, but I don't want it to feel like, oh, father-son relationship and the son is a little shit and father doesn't care. Like that's been done too many times before. So right now I'm using this for this the male character. I'm using the name the Master. Like I don't know if I'm really happy with it. I don't want to reveal the character's name now. I feel like it'll be important later. But I don't have a good placeholder yet. I'm probably gonna have to think about it. Magic is not logical. I actually kind of like that quote. I think that's actually an interesting quote. Magic is not logical. I feel like I want to explore that with The Last Robot a little bit. That's an interesting idea. To them. thinking of what's the best way. So I've set up so far. I've now set up on the laughter. So I've set up the world a little bit. I feel like I can actually do a little bit better world building for setting up what the creator world felt like a little more. That's something I actually want to play around with. But in terms of the actual scene, so now I have the last robot who, during that time, what's being shown is that he's friends or a robot caretaker right now too, who we're calling the master and a child. And the master and the child has this father-son dynamic. The master has to go do something. Something is wrong. And the last robot has some strange magic ability. This is actually an appropriate spot for one of these breaks over here. And then same with here. You'll usually see that in stories sometimes, where you'll see a hyphen break. Let's just like change a scene. I think, nope, I do not like that. All right, I think that's actually appropriate here. Yeah, I think that's where I'm going to call it for right here. I feel like I came up with a good spot for it. I'll have to come back tomorrow and figure out how I want to develop and enhance this backstory. Essentially, the characters are now going to deal with the fallout of unleashing the first demon on the world, which is going to be their destruction and bring about the age of animals. So let's move that back. So I know it was a little quieter this evening. Sometimes when I get really into certain scenes or when I still have a lot of reworking to do, I get a little bit more focused and a little less narration. But I feel very good about the overall trajectory of the story. I think the backstories are going to prove the most challenging because I need to flesh it out a little bit more. All right, excellent. So no, that isn't what we want. All right, so perfect. And so with the 2024 challenge out of the way, the question of the day live game. All right, so for us to be able to play a live game, let me know if you're here in the chat and we'll play. If we have enough people, we'll do a live game right now. I have a fun one which I developed for my next one. So if you're here in the chat, say here, or say I, or say whatever you want. So while you're responding and hopping on, so the question of the day, you just found the cure to eternal life. What do you do? Do you use it for yourself? Do you give it to somebody else? Do you hoard it? Do you use it for all of humanity so humanity can have eternal life? Maybe, maybe not. I think if I had the cure to eternal life, I would... Ooh, that's a rough one. I would use it, absolutely. I'd want to live forever. I'd probably regret that. Any type of creative work you see where whenever a character lives for eternity, there's always like a tragic backstory, always, because everybody wants to live forever, of course. So how do you create a weakness that can offset eternity? And I think that's the challenge you face when creating an eternal character. Yeah, I think if I was going to create an eternal character, I would probably flip it, and I would say that their weakness would probably have to be... the weakness would have to be the eternal life itself, actually. There would have to be some sort of weakness, or some sort of negative ability or trait that makes eternal life a little more painful for this character. Beyond memories, beyond seeing people age, I think that the upside is they get to experience what the world becomes, but the downside is everyone dies, right? But then there would be an additional weakness, is what I would add to that. What I would do with it, I would use it, and then I would offer it to any other people if they wanted to join. So if you want to hop into the creative writing, the live game, feel free to say I if you're here in the chat, and we can always give it a try. I always have new creative writing games to try. So if you're here in the chat, feel free to hop in the comments. Otherwise, we'll save it for tomorrow. I ask myself, what would I do if I had the eternal life? Yeah, and I think I would definitely use it on myself, and I would probably then use it offer it to probably select people. You think about that, like in the wrong hands, like that, talk about a disaster. Talk about even worse than environmental disaster. Someone living forever, the wrong someone living forever. That actually sounds like a great idea, actually. Sounds like a great story. Well, it looks like it's a little dead this evening, probably because it's a little later. So we'll hold off on our creative writing live game and we'll put it on pause for tomorrow. With that being said, I'm going to sign off. If you found any value from today's live stream or video, don't forget, like and subscribe. You'll be notified when I go live and when I upload more writing advice. I'm uploading new writing videos each and every single day because I want to help you become a better creative writer. It's a long path, but there's so many different elements and facets to it. But like, I believe in you, and it's so rewarding, as I talked about earlier. All right, I'm Kauffman, and I'll catch you on the flip side.